Hi, this is the business guy. Trusts. If you're like most people, you've heard the term, but you might not know what they really do or why they matter. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the world of trusts. We'll uncover the different types of trusts, what they're used for, and here's the kicker, how some promoters invent fancy names to sell plain old trusts so you won't be tricked into thinking that you're getting something that you're not. So stick with me, and by the end of this video, you'll know what's real, what's hype, and how to protect your assets the smart way. So let's start with the basics. The trust started during the early 1500s in England, and the king either took the land from the landowners in exchange for protection, it's called the feudal system, or heavily taxed the landowners. So the landowners developed a way to convey legal title of their land to third parties while retaining the benefits of ownership. And this is especially true during the Crusades, when the people would go down south and to the Middle East, do their fighting, and when they came back, they wanted to make sure they still had their land and their wife didn't have a new husband. And because the beneficiaries were not the true landowners, their wealth was primarily measured by the amount of land they owned, and the king would tax them based on that. In this case, they put it in the trust, so they were immune from the huge taxation that the king could impose. So that's where trust started. Now here's how trusts work. A trust has three parties, the settlor or grantor, and that's the one who calls us and has us set up a trust. They give the property in trust to another person, the trustee, for the benefit of a third person, a beneficiary, which may or may not be themselves. There's also the trustee who holds the title to the property for the benefit of those beneficiaries and who also must follow the instructions of the trust document. So they can't just do whatever they want, they have to follow the instructions of the trust. And finally, the beneficiary, the one who receives the benefits of the property being held in the trust. Most trusts that we set up, the people who call us are both the settlors and the beneficiaries of the type of trust we set up the most. So in summary, a trust is a legal arrangement where you, the grantor or settlor, transfer assets to a trustee in the trust who manages those assets for the benefit of your beneficiary, which might be you, depending on the type of trust. So think of it as building a safety net, a legal one for your money, property, or even your business. So why would you need a trust? Here are a few reasons. Number one is avoiding probate. A trust keeps your estate out of court, saving your family time and money. Privacy. Unlike a will, trusts aren't public record. Asset protection. The right type of trust can shield your assets from creditors and lawsuits. Tax efficiency. Certain trusts can help reduce estate and income taxes. Okay, now that we've covered why trusts are important, let's talk about the different types. It's a long list, but don't worry, I'll keep it simple. Number one, the revocable living trust. This is your bread and butter trust. It's flexible. You can change it, add to it, or revoke it entirely during your lifetime. It's perfect for avoiding probate, which is the process of transferring assets to those who will inherit your wealth after you die. Without a trust, you typically need to hire attorneys and go before a judge who gets to interpret who gets what. So with a trust, you avoid all that time and expense, but don't count on this type of trust for asset protection. Since you're still in control, so are your creditors. They can step into your shoes and do whatever you could do, such as take the trust assets for themselves. So living trusts are great for estate planning, but they're bad for asset protection. So that's why we need different types of trusts. Number two, the irrevocable trust. When you put your assets into an irrevocable trust, it's like locking them into a vault and having a person or organization you confide in hold the key. This trust separates the legal ownership from the beneficial ownership. Legal owner definition. The legal owner is the person or entity with formal legal title to the asset held in the trust. In this case of an irrevocable trust, this is typically the trustee. Now, the trustee has the authority and obligation to manage and control the trust assets according to the terms of the trust document and applicable laws. And their responsibilities are to manage the trust assets responsibly in the best interest of the beneficiaries. And that's why most trustee companies are licensed and bonded to ensure they're doing the right thing for the beneficiaries and ensure that the trust purpose is fulfilled. Managing distributions, investments, or other decisions as outlined in the trust. In fact, when we set up a trust, we'll often put an LLC inside the trust. We'll make the client the manager or initial manager, and as such, our client can be the signatory on the bank account until the legal pressure is so high they shouldn't be, and they can also make the investment decisions and go online and see their account anytime they want to. Ownership rights. The trustee does not own the trust assets personally, and they cannot use them for their benefit unless explicitly allowed by the terms of the trust. Okay, now beneficial owner. The beneficial owner is the person or persons who have the right to benefit from the assets held in the trust. These are the beneficiaries of the trust. Their role is to receive the benefits of the trust assets, such as income, distributions, or use of the trust property, depending on the terms of the trust. Rights. They can receive rights to distributions as defined by the trust. They have the right to enforce the terms of the trust if the trustee is not acting properly. Many times they can simply replace the trustee with somebody else or another organization. Ownership rights. Beneficiaries do not have the legal title or control over the trust assets, but they get to enjoy the benefits such as the income or property use, which is what you really want, right? Because the trust separates the legal ownership from the beneficial ownership, it makes the assets harder for the creditors or lawsuits to reach, and this trust is the heavyweight champ for estate planning and asset protection. And that brings us to number 3, the offshore trust. This is my personal favorite and the most powerful asset protection tool available. Offshore trusts in this context are a type of irrevocable trust designed for maximum protection. Jurisdictions like our favorite one is the Cook Islands in the South Pacific, south of Hawaii, Belize, an English-speaking country in Central America, and Nevis in the Caribbean make it nearly impossible for creditors to break through. Why? Their laws favor the trust owner and impose major hurdles for losses. So can you guess who has set up more Cook Islands trusts than anybody in the world? Well, you're looking at them. I've been in the asset protection business since 1991, and my team and I have been setting up Cook Islands Trust since 1996, so close to 30 years. So here's how they work. An offshore trust has a trustee company, obviously. They're licensed, bonded, insured. And they're typically a team of lawyers who serve as the trustee. The assets are inside of an LLC. So we put an LLC, an offshore LLC, inside of the trust, and the LLC holds the bank account, okay? So you can be the initial manager of that LLC, and if needed, the trust company can step in as the manager of the LLC. Now, whether you're the manager or you're not, you still have access to look at the account online, do stock trades, and so on. So you have access to the money, but your opponent at law does not. There are beneficiaries, and this can be you and or your family. You can have third-party lenders put lien against domestic assets and put that money in the trust so it's safe and secure. And there's also an optional protector that can work with and direct the trustee and oversee the activities of the trustee. So when the courts where you live, let's say, for example, a U.S. court says, hey, give me the money in the trust, our trustee law firm says, oh, you don't have jurisdiction down here in the Cook Islands. We're not going to release the funds. And there's really nothing that the courts can do because they don't have jurisdiction over foreign trustees and the attorneys that work for the trust company that serves as a trustee of your offshore trust. That's why it's the most powerful asset protection available. I have a Cook Islands trust for myself and my family. Thousands of trusts we've established. We've never seen one of our clients lose money from a lawsuit when they have put their money into one of our Cook Islands trusts. So it's very strong and secure. Trust type number 4, the special needs trust. This trust is a lifesaver for families with disabled loved ones. So it provides financial support without jeopardizing eligibility for government benefits. So if somebody is collecting, let's say, Social Security or Medicare or disability, this enables the trust that can own, let's say, the house they live in or other assets that might be able to help them without having them own the assets directly, because if they did, that might disqualify them from receiving these benefits. So you just want to make sure to get great legal advice from an attorney when using these types of trusts to make sure you're in compliance. And that is, by the way, why we have attorneys on our staff help guide them in the right direction. Trust type number 5, a charitable trust. So want to leave a legacy? A charitable trust lets you donate assets to a cause while potentially reducing estate taxes. It's a philanthropy with benefits. So when Bill Gates set up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, he was able to take a huge tax write-off for depositing his wealth into this trust-like structure called a foundation. And yes, I know that foundations are different than trusts, but for this purpose, tax purposes, they can achieve similar benefits. So you can immediately receive tax benefits for donating assets to this type of trust, and you get to leave a legacy for years to come with the income the assets produce, including perhaps family members that maybe the trust can hire and and charities that benefit from the trust. And again, you want to get good legal and tax benefits before you use this type of trust. Number 6, the spendthrift trust. Got a beneficiary who's not great with money? A spendthrift trust ensures they don't blow through their inheritance all at once. So this type of provision in the trust is like a faucet that can slow down or stop the flow if a creditor is trying to get the assets or the beneficiaries want to overspend. So instead of a 17-year-old inheriting millions and buying a Lamborghini in every color, it might pay for food, clothing, and shelter and education up to a certain age and provide an income for a lifetime, or let the beneficiaries receive access to the cash at a certain age when they might be more responsible. Okay, in this section, we're going to talk about the marketing hype and made-up trust names. This is a fun one. And here's where it gets interesting, or ridiculous, depending on your perspective. Some trust promoters have a knack for marketing. They'll take a standard trust and dress it up with a fancy name to make it sound groundbreaking. Ever heard of these? The Dynasty Asset Fortress Trust, the Platinum Bulletproof Wealth Shield, the Ultra Secure Family Legacy Trust. It sounds impressive, doesn't it? But here's the truth. These names are just pure marketing. Most of the time, they're just regular, irrevocable, or revocable trusts with no additional features. So don't be fooled by the fancy names. So here are the dangers of buying into this hype. So why does it matter? Because we've seen people pay tens of thousands of dollars for a trust they could have set up for a fraction of the cost. And worse, these so-called special trusts don't meet the actual client's needs. I mean, after all, a trust isn't about the name, it's about what it does. So before signing on the dotted line, ask, what legal protections does this trust offer? Is it designed to solve my specific problems? Am I paying for marketing fluff or actual benefits? So let's talk about picking the right type of trust for you. So how do you know which trust is right for you? Start with these steps. 1, identify your goals: asset protection, estate planning, tax efficiency, or all 3. Understanding the risks. Are you worried about losses, creditors, or mismanagement? Consult an expert. A qualified professional, such as those on our staff, can match you with the right trust and steer you clear of unnecessary gimmicks. Red flags to watch out for. Be wary of these trust traps. Promises of a lawsuit-proof trust. No trust is invincible. For example, if somebody is stealing money or robs a bank, that trust is not going to protect that money they put into that kind of trust. High-pressure sales tactics. A real professional lets you make informed decisions and explains how things work. Vague legal terms or unclear documentation. If they can't explain it simply, walk away. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Trusts are incredibly powerful tools, but only if they're used correctly. So don't fall for flashy names or promises that sound too good to be true. Stick with the basics. Work with somebody you trust and make decisions based on your goals, not the sales pitch. So thank you for watching. If this video gave you clarity, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, The Business Guy, for more tips on protecting your wealth and planning for the future. And remember, it's not the name of the trust that matters, it's the strategy behind it. We'll see you next time. This is The Business Guy.